Alrighty. Hey guys. Um I am currently at school, so if you hear background noise or somebody opening a door or talking or something like that, that's what it is. I do apologize for that. I also wanted to mention I will make a complete video, but I have been officially announced as a Unison League ambassador. So that's exciting. This video, though, is going to be talking about my opinions on Symphony Kasumi. Her animation is it's pretty good, to be honest. It is a remake of an old animation. It's basically just a copy paste, and they just changed her face with an old anime, not with an old symphony character. But I mean, I still like it. It is a jackpot where you need 6, and you get 600 to 1,000, 200 to 300, 400 to 500, and then weapons and monsters separate like that. You need 11,000 to get the scroll. Now let's see if she is actually worth it. So she hits 5 times and penetrates physical damage for 560 damage, and she does the same for magic. So she's hitting a total of 10 times. Keep in mind, too, that she's hitting all enemies. So she is an AoE PvP beast just right off the bat. Because she's Star, it's going to be really hard to stack tons of time defense against a monster like this. She does apply a demerit because she is so powerful. And this is a really interesting demerit. It reduces the damage that the enemies take to 0 for 1 time, and this will be after the damage that you deal. So if anyone else throws monsters, or if you attack after the uni, then they will get a one tick of 0 damage right after. She increases all elements by 20. This one's really interesting. All allies' success value nullifies damage taken for 150 seconds for physical and magical. So essentially what this is saying is there is a 30% chance that when you are hit with a physical or magical hit, that it'll reduce the damage you take to 0. Now, from what I have tested in the past, this type of buff works exactly the same as these buffs. Let's see if I can find it. It is not that one on the Lancer. Yeah. So 20% chance to nullify damage when magic damage is taken. This is a specific type of nullification. It's not like a null proc. So a null proc reduces the damage taken to 0, and then you can penetrate that nullification with something like Starburst, for example. Just in this instance, this is just an example, right? So Starburst penetrates, it ignores not Starburst. What's one that, I know one. Sorry about that. Glistening Edge. It says penetrates nullification and invulnerability. This type of nullification that's on your class, on the Lancer, is a slightly different form of nullification, and I believe that this is just a really bad translation. But when this first came out, moves that ignore nullification would still be reduced to 0 occasionally. So as far as I can recall, and from the testing that I did years ago, I believe that these types of nullifications here are a different type of nullification than null procs. I believe that these just reduce the damage regardless of where it's coming from to 0. Now, things may have changed, AT might have changed it, and I could just be wrong. So take it with a grain of salt, but I believe that that's the way that it works. I can probably confirm this at some point, because I will be spawning for her in a separate video, but yeah, let's continue. So, Concerto. This one's an old type of buff. It increases your stats by 100%, but if I remember correctly, I don't think this Concerto stacks on top of things like Dawn. I tested Concerto when it first came out, and it was the same as, so Rage, Dawn, and Concerto, and Serenity, those all fall under the same pool where they overlap. They're like overlapping buffs. You can't get more of them, but the element is specific to this monster, or specific to Concerto. So none of the other buffs give you elements, so that's nice. Savior element is 120 and increases all of your element again and your cost recovery speed. This monster is an element beast. I don't think I've ever seen a monster that applies this much element. You're getting 20 plus 4 plus 6, a total of 30 element from one monster. It's a really, really interesting monster. 60k on stats, lethargy and frail resistance. Those are both actually pretty good. Frail is the one that prevents you from being able to defense proc, and lethargy, I believe, is the one that prevents you from being able to offensively proc. So both really annoying debuffs, especially in high level PvE. Those can be really annoying. Time and star defense by 700. That is gnarly. Remember, star defense gives you defense against light and dark, so you're getting a total of 1400 just from the star, plus the 700 gives you 2100 from just this monster in total defense. And time and star is a fantastic combo. Even if you're not using this monster actively, having lethargy and frail resistance at 60 plus the 60k and the 700 in time and star would be really valuable for a lot of players in your back 5 monsters. So keep that in mind. All allies increases cost recovery speed by 10 for 150 seconds. This one is, it's interesting. Before the Unison abilities came out, this would have been extremely powerful, especially stacking on top of the buff that you're already getting from the Savior element. You're getting an incredible amount of cost. I don't know if these actually can even stack, but it's interesting. I imagine they can because they put them on the same monster. But it's fascinating to think about how things have changed, because now with people using lots of Unison abilities, you don't worry about cost nearly as much. I don't feel like I have a problem with cost. Even in high level matches, I feel like I'm not really having a problem with cost. Now, it is worth pointing out that this monster is lacking a bubble, which is extremely weird. Basically every single monster nowadays gives you a bubble, so it's really, really bizarre to not get a bubble. That's something I wanted to point out. Oh, I also wanted to point out these nullifications here apply to monsters as well. So if a monster is doing damage to you, you can reduce that to 0 with monsters. I also wanted to point that out. So my opinion on this monster for PvE is, I think it's amazing, especially for mid-level and high-level PvE. This monster is super specialized, and it works against 2 strong elements. So at high-level PvE, usually you're element locked, which means that you can only use advantage element. So for example, if you're fighting time, you can only use light or dark monsters. Now that's really annoying when you're fighting something like fire, which only you'll be able to use only water monsters. But because this is a star monster, you're good against light and dark, which means that the element flexibility is really excellent for high level PvE. I really like this monster. The 30 element gained from this monster is insane. And for high level PvE, this nullification is actually a game changer. The cost is actually, it's interesting. If you're playing something like a Lancer and you have a bubble, like the infinite ability bubble will actually cause you to run out of cost, because Lance Flash costs 25, and you will, unless you have absolute and you have tons of cost procs, then you'll probably run out of cost. So this additional cost on the monster and the savior element is actually pretty clutch. I really like this monster for PvE. There is quite a big drawback to this monster though. One of the things that makes high level PvE extremely dangerous is one-shot ability. There are abilities that monsters use and it'll just one-shot you. That is why bubbles are super important. Bubbles are a barrier of death. They're additional HP that will prevent you from getting one shot. It is extremely important to have bubbles in high level PvE quests, and this monster does not give you a bubble. So overall, I really like this monster for PvE, but I can't say it's a top tier must have for high level PvE because there's no bubble. I can't do that in good conscience, even though it is an excellent monster in PvE. So overall, for PvE, I'd say it's probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10. It really depends what element you're fighting, but if it's light, dark, star that are the advantage elements, you're gaining so much element from this monster, right? Because like, let's say that you're fighting something like time. Even if this monster is a star monster, light and dark both beat time. You're gaining 20 of each plus 10 more total of each, which means you're gaining a total of 30 light and 30 dark element for a total of 60 element just from this monster. Not to mention the concerto and the nullification are really nice. For extremely high level PvP, like I said, this would be a 10 out of 10 monster, but it's got no bubble. So in my opinion, it's just making it dangerous, unnecessarily dangerous. Even with the nullifications, I think it's dangerous. Alrighty. For PvP, this monster is pretty interesting. The nullifications are really valuable for surviving unis. It is a YOLO, but it is also something that can save you or your teammates, potentially. I do also like that this monster hits 10 times and is a star monster because it's really hard to build defense. It also penetrates. One of the things that I don't like though is that it gives the enemy a single tick of reducing damage to 0. It doesn't sound like a lot, but what can end up happening is you can throw this monster and the enemy can throw a monster, and then it's a race. The first person to deal damage and kill the other person will be the victor, and your first damage tick is going to be reduced to 0. This monster also doesn't give you things like penetration. It doesn't give you uni boost to your team. It doesn't give you any type of status ailment debuff that would be really oppressive. We are missing some things from this monster. The savior element's nice. We're also not getting a bubble. And all of this element is going out the window. It's basically complete garbage. However, Like I said, the damage is still good. Sorry about that. However, I do really like the lethargy, frail resistance, and time and star defense. For PvP, I would say personally, would I be throwing this monster often or all the time? Is this my go-to throw? Definitely not. I'd say this monster is a 5 out of 10, depending on your attack and magic attack stats. If you have incredible attack and magic attack stats, or you're just trying to kill the enemies, or if you don't have a great monster pool, this can be a really strong monster. I would say this monster can potentially push into like the 7 out of 10s if you're really like in certain situations, but I don't like some aspects of it. So I'm gonna drop it down to 5 out of 10. And for guild battles, round 1, it's a horrible throw. You'd never want to throw this round 1. The reason why is because you don't want to kill the enemies round 1. You want to debuff them. You want to status ailment them. You want to uni boost your team and uni reduce the enemy team. All things that are missing from this uni. The only thing that I really like about this uni for a round 1 throw is that you reduce the enemy's damage taken to 0 for 1 hit. And you're not getting any penetration. So when treasure hunters are racing, one of the fears of a treasure hunter is potentially doing damage and feeding the enemy uni. Excuse me. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. One of the fears is feeding the enemy uni. If you're dealing 0 damage and you can guarantee that you're dealing 0 damage, that's nice. However, oh, I feel another sneeze coming. Okay, maybe not. Okay, however, I don't think that it's a good enough trade-off. There is also some justification. You could argue that the nullification to physical and magical damage, especially from monsters that they could potentially throw, could be really valuable, but I'm not confident enough in it that I could say that yes, this would be a good round 1 throw. You'd never want to throw this as a treasure hunter, basically ever, and you'd never want to throw this as like a panic uni unless you're just trying to kill them. You're missing a lot of things. I don't like it personally. So for a round 1 throw, probably close to 1 out of 10 for me. I see almost no upside and just downside. The second round throw is where this monster would actually be quite interesting. The second round throw, you get the penetration, and you could kill people, plus you get the nullification in case any of them die. You also get things like Concerto for the extra HP to survive, and you get an element, a good field, the 120k, a 120% field, which is nice. I mean, like all things that are really nice. So I like the round 2 throw. I think as a round 2 throw, specifically as a killing uni, you could argue that this monster is close to a 9 or a 10 out of 10 if it's specifically in the slot where it's meant to kill the enemy. It is not a buffing uni for things like PvP, but it is a really unique, interesting monster. So as a killing uni, I could see it for guild battles. Everything else though, I don't like it. As a backline 5 monster, I think that this monster is probably an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Time and star are super valuable. There are better monsters in some aspects, more specialized monsters, of course. But when you're comparing them to the longevity of monsters like potentially this, that has light, dark, and star element resistance, uni damage resistance, it's not really comparable. So it depends what you're going for, but I like it in a lot of things. I think the stats are really good. The lethargy and frail is super useful, and time and star is really nice. So overall, I'm going to say 8 out of 10 as a backline 5 monster. Now, if you're free to play, is this monster worth it? My assumption is probably not. And the reason is because you generally don't have enough damage to be killing people because you just don't have enough stats. As a new player or as a free-to-play player, you can be lacking in stats. However, if you're really into PvE, you could absolutely use this monster for a lot of different aspects of PvE. I think it's a really safe monster, so I do like some aspects of it. And it's a flexible monster too, in the sense that you can use this in things like PvP and in guild battles. It's just not really meant for buffing. It's more meant to just kill the enemies. So there are advantages to it and absolutely disadvantages. I would say though, personally, the nicest thing about this monster is even if you're not using it all the time, you can use it as a backline 5 monster. So as a new player, absolutely, I like this monster. I think it's probably a 7 out of 10 for new players. It may be on the pricier side because it's going to be, I'll show you guys the math, but it comes out to like 750 gems average for a guaranteed scroll, and on the high end you're looking at like 900, so you're probably wanting like 850 gems to spawn this. Now, is it worth 850 gems as a new player? Probably, in the sense that you have access to a lot of the, like, these weapons and the defense gear for this event is actually going to be really useful for a lot of new players, so I really like that aspect of it. There are good aspects of this monster for new players. A free-to-play player, though, I'd probably stay away. Probably 3 out of 10 for a free-to-play player. I just feel like there are better options. Once you have a larger monster pool, even as a free-to-play player, you should have a specialized monster for PvP, for guild battle, and for PvE. And I don't feel like this monster is like beyond good enough to be able to spend something like 850 gems on just to get it. So that's my opinion. I think that she's a lot of fun though. I think she is good. All right, catch you later.